Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is the Black Manga Critic here. Just want to say a word about a couple things, few things. You know, just to make sure, like, get stuff off my chest. You know what I mean? Figure out some things, clarify some ideas. Um, yeah, yeah. And just kind of like, I don't know. I guess like refocus. Refocus. Get like I don't know, happier, I guess, about things and like the way that things are going. Not like this like real world like stuff because real world stuff like things are pretty great. You know what I mean? I can't really like I can't complain about my relationship. I can't complain about school. I can't complain about work. I can't complain about those things. I think those things are awesome. But you know, um it's one of those things where like I think I want to address a few things, but I think where I really want to start is talking about like adjusting my approach. I think like that's really important because I've talked to a few people, some people that like I talk to all the time, dope people, you know what I mean? And they've been like, yo, like, and even on that stream, right? The One Piece and Women stream, right? Which I thought was really great. I thought it was awesome. But like just adjusting my part, like what can I do to like, you know, see the progress that I feel like should be here already. You know what I mean? Like within this community and in general. Cause like I have other goals. Like, I want to get to a place where like, you know, like let's say if I'm within like a particular system, I can say do like a fundraiser or plan these particular events and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's a lot harder to get that stuff done if you're not part of, let's say, like a school system or a certain like organization or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's just stuff like that that I'm thinking about. Like how do I just how do I get those things started? But like I think from this like in this community in this like particular in this space, how do I like how do I approach people in a way that I think works in a way that it's effective. You know what I mean? Where I feel like I'm not throwing myself into like, something that's doomed, like a conversation that's doomed to fail. You know what I mean? And I think that's a part of it. It's a part of it. It's like, so like I don't know. I think maybe at some level I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this. But I think a lot of it is like sometimes like it's like fear, right? It's like I don't know if certain things will work. I don't know how effective certain things will be. That's a scary thing because when you see like that certain things are like not good, you want them to change. You want to change, you want to do things that you think will be effective. You want to make sure that whatever sort of work you do is effective. And when you feel like it's not, when you feel like it might not be doing what you need it to do, like it hits you in a way you're like, man, it just knocks the wind out of you. And you reevaluate things. You have to think about, okay, like why isn't this thing working? What's going on? I think that's really important. Like just talking to people that were on the stream, talking with people that were not on the stream, just in this community. It's like, how do I adjust? Because sometimes you gotta adjust. Sometimes like if you feel like the stuff that you're doing isn't working and it's also not helping you, like, and you're not doing maybe things in a sort of healthy way, how do you do that? So I always have to like think about those things. That's really important. Because like if I'm just coming in like doing these things and it's not really doing anything, like, and you don't see the changes you need to see, like you got to readjust. You have to. So I think one thing I'm trying to do is just, throw out those kinds of questions like on Twitter, be like, yo, what can I do? What else can I do? How do I adjust what I'm doing? Who do y'all feel like I should be talking to or with, right? Like, who do you feel like I should be like, throwing like, I don't even want to call it an olive branch necessarily. I think like, it's more like you know, who do you think like are people that you want me to talk to? I'm not even talking about like a one-on-one discussion on stream or anything like that. I think it's more like privately, like a hangouts call, like stuff like that. Who are people that you think I should be talking to? You know what I mean? And I mean like people that you think like will listen. You know, people that you think will listen, people that you think will, you know, that I don't like think are just like awful people. Because there aren't too many people that I think like are like on a whole like terrible. You know, when it comes to like this community in particular. I think there are people like on YouTube that are horrible. But I think within this community, like I think there are people that definitely do things that I don't think are healthy. I think that are harmful. So like that, but that's different. You know what I mean? Like I think there are people like I met people like, you know, there are people like on this platform. I met at Comic-Con. I like, and we were there, like it was cool, it was gravy, it was chill. You know what I mean? But I think things need to change. So there are people that I know I can like, you know, shout out and say like, hey, I can DM them and say, hey, like let's have a conversation about this thing, let's have a conversation about that thing, let's see what we can do. And I've done it in the past, and I think sometimes it's good because like I can see that progress. You know what I mean? I can see that. But I think there are like a lot of people where it's like, okay, maybe you don't have a YouTube channel, maybe you're just on Twitter. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I talk to those people? Like, who are people that you feel like I should approach? Who are people that you feel like I should talk to? Like, what are your ideas? Because I'm like, you know, I'm trying to throw certain things out there. I'm trying to do particular things. I don't know how to sort of move forward without being like sort of like maybe without inadvertently like damaging like any or inhibiting any sort of progress that could be made. I think that's my thing. Like I don't want to do something, set it up, and be like, oh, okay, you've already set it up in a way to where maybe progress won't be able to happen in the way that you like. And I'm trying to avoid that from now on because it's not useful to me, and I think to other people and the people that I care about and people that I'm trying to be like you know, that I'm trying to be allies you know, I'm trying to stand behind and with, like if it's not useful to them, you know what I mean? Like then what's the point? So I have to adjust. You know, so I'm just asking people, I'm like, what do y'all think I should do? You know, what do y'all think I should do? What are some ways in which I can maybe adjust my approach? Because I have to be able to do that. If I can't do that, if I can't like, you know, say, okay, I gotta be introspective. I gotta look at myself and say, okay, what am I doing? That's just, you gotta, okay, put that to the side and approach it from this sort of way. I have to do that. Like I have to do that for me. I'm not gonna tell other people, like, yo, like other channels and stuff like that, yo, maybe you should do this thing. Like they have to be able to like, I think in some ways figure that out for themselves. You know, they like, but I don't know. You know, like, I don't know, you know, yeah, I think I have opinions about things. I have opinions about like how certain, let's say, conversations are held. And I think things need to change. But again, like, how do I approach that? How do I say like, yo, this is not productive in a way that's like not sort of saying like, well, y'all are trash and you will always be trash and that's it. You know what I mean? Like I think like that's the kind of stuff that I'm like grappling with. Because again, it's not really about me in a sense of like in some ways, in some like in terms of progress, right? It's like what, like I gotta be better. I gotta make sure the things that I'm doing help people, and support people. So you know, yeah. So I think like that's sort of like what I'm looking for. Like, what do y'all think I can do? And I gotta ask y'all. because y'all matter. A lot of you like have like helped me, I think, adjust in some ways. Um, so yeah. Like who are some people? Like what are some names? Who should I try to like talk to? I think there are people that I already have in mind. You know, um, and I'm gonna like I've already approached them and stuff like that. So it's like yeah. Now sometimes YouTube's weird when it comes to notifications. Like I might not be notified. What I mean? I might not be notified about anything. For like whatever streams, and then like 2 hours later, be like, oh, da 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 da. You know what I mean? This person's streaming, and this person streamed like 2 hours ago. I'm like, what happened to the notification? So what happens? It happens. It's just YouTube is little wonky when it comes to that. But yeah, it's just like Goldie. It's just like I need to adjust in some ways, because I think that there was one point where the stream, like there was one piece of women's stream that worked. I think was very good. I think this one was very good too, but I think like it hit differently. You know what I mean? Like it hit differently. So I think there are things. There are things that like I gotta say like, okay, like what happened? You know what I mean? Like why did this particular stream like hit in a certain way, and why did this stream not hit in a certain way? And I think like it's not even about like, oh, I need to make sure that I get like 1,000 views or 2,000 views. Like sometimes I don't stream, I don't react. You know how long it's been like since I've reacted to like multiple manga at the same time? It's been a while. Like that's something I have to get back to. Like that doesn't make me feel good. Like I have to get back to that stuff. But but again, it's not like a clout thing. Like that's something I didn't really like even like consider that was like an important thing to like a ton of people until like really recently. I was like, yo, people really care about like clout like is this big thing. Like people really care about that. Like it really affects how people move and how people view like others that make certain moves. You know what I mean? Like it's a big thing. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Like when I do certain things, I'm like, I don't know. It's just like it's a lot. And like social door, like there's a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of this stuff. Like there's certain questions. Like of course, like I watch streams. Like I watch certain streams. You know what I mean? Like I haven't like unfollowed like certain people. I haven't unfollowed Brago. I haven't unfollowed certain people or anything like that. Like I haven't done that. Like I watch streams. Like I won't comment on them. Because like I don't think that's like a way in which like I like to approach certain things. Like I like. I don't know. Like I think like there's a way in which like I can say like, yo, Brago, like this, maybe like da you could do this, or maybe you could do that. I can do that, like via DM. You know what I mean? So it's like there are just certain things like that I do. Maybe y'all don't know about, and like that's okay. But like I might DM Brago. I might be like, hey, like let's have this discussion. Like, hey, let's do this thing. Let's try to do this thing. Or I might DM like someone else and be like, yo, what's going on? Like, how do we adjust this? Da da da. You know what I mean? So it's just like Roger, like whomever. Like so there are ways in which I make moves. Like, but I really try to avoid like dropping like names and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like when I talk about the community, a lot of times I'm talking about like sometimes like a certain event will happen and you'll know, right? And you'll know who I'm talking about. If I feel like like okay, this person like I don't even like this person, like right. And sometimes I'm talking about people in comments. Sometimes I'm talking about people in chats. Like this community is like not just like the YouTubers who produce content. It's like the people who watch that content, who comment on it, who are in the chats, like stuff like that. Like because those people like they're there, like right, like they exist, like and they and sometimes like are just like this amalgamation of like just toxicity. So I have to comment on that, right? I have to comment on that. But I think there are ways in which like I think I need to adjust my approach, but I also think others need to like adjust their approaches. Like for me, like, I think one thing that is really important to me is when you're having discussions about certain topics, right? I think there are certain topics where it is critical, right? Like it's very like it's imperative that you're informed. And when I say it's imperative that you're informed, I mean like it's imperative that you like seek out like information, talk to people that you know are informed about certain things. Because if you're not, like it's very difficult to have like a conversation that to me is um that is just sort of like set up for productivity. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to do that. And what I mean by that is like if you're having a conversation, right? Like it's like if you're having a conversation about like let's say like sexuality or whatever. Like if you come in and you're like and all like let's say like all you know about let's say about like sexuality is like TV shows, you know, certain TV shows you know, that like portray a very like heteronormative like idea of like what sexuality is, or like, or you only talk to people, right? Or the majority of people that you talk to also like have a very heteronormative idea of what sexuality is, then it's going to be really hard for you to have a progressive conversation about it. It's going to be hard for you to do that, right? In the same way, right, in the same vein, like if you let's say are having conversations about let's say like racism, right? And you talk to someone that has like a very like basic sort of level idea of like what racism is, and they are talking to people who also have a very basic idea of what racism is, you're going to have a really hard time having a progressive like fruitful like discussion about racism and like systemic racism and all these other different types of things, right? Right, and intersectionality and all that stuff. You're going to have a hard time. You know what I mean? You're going to have a hard time. There are things that you need to be aware of. You know what I mean? There are things you have to be aware of. It's just going to be very difficult. Otherwise, what will happen is that you're going to like these discussions are going to sound the same. They're going to sound the same. You're going to notice that there's that growth or that progression that you're looking for, or that maybe you are looking for, isn't there. You know what I mean? Like you got to see that. You know, you got to see that. I think like I see that too often. And I think one thing that like I want to do is like I want to make sure that like if you're having discussions about sexuality, right? Like, and it's all guys, like there's only so far that discussion will go. So here I would say like I think let's say like Dustin, Brago, like I think in a lot of ways there's a way which they're having a space where those discussions are even like with the fact that that's even happening, I think is like to me is like it's already so different from like the general sense of like the anime like manga like community, YouTube community. The fact that those are even that's even a thing, right, is already vastly different from what other channels, other content creators like in this particular community are doing. That's already different, right? The thing that comes into it is like it can't stop there, right? The progression can't stop there, right? Because then this like not so good, right? Like stagnation like starts to happen, right? Where you're like, oh, I have this conversation with all these guys and we all, right, when it comes to that, might think in a sort of similar way, and maybe a couple of us think in a different way. Like that's not going to be really, really helpful. And even like me, like I have to think about what am I doing? How am I setting certain things up? How can I do it so that, oh, this is productive? I got to look at myself, right? I can't look at other channels and be like, oh, they're doing this thing. That might not be as productive as it could be, right? And then that's it. I got to look at myself and be like, okay, like how am I setting up my discussions? How can I make my own discussions more productive and progressive and like fruitful, right? Like how do I do that? How do I do that? How do I take advice from other people who are checking out the content? And how do I do that? You know what I mean? So it's, you know what I mean? It's hard. And it's like, I have to comment on that because it's like, it's important. But and in the past, like I've done that. You know what I mean? In the past, I've done that. But at the same time, it's like I got to make sure that I'm looking at myself. You know, at the very least, I got to make sure that I'm doing that. Because I think there are always ways in which I can be more progressive. That's why I make sure to start. I make sure to start the stream with just saying like I got to adjust my approach, because if the progress that I think needs to happen isn't particularly happening, or if I feel like I'm not hitting in the way that I need to, then I got to adjust. I have to. Otherwise, then that's me being selfish, me being like, oh, everything's fine, everything's like, because everything's not fine. Certain things aren't working. But again, I think like it's like there are certain things that I think need to shift, and I think there are ways to do that. I think there is it's like yo, if you just be like, okay, you know, how do I shift it so that like I like, let's say like certain content, it's like, how do I have more women, right? Like in these conversations, how do I make it so that, let's say like, you know, maybe there's not one person, you know, like one woman in the stream, or right, you could have like a woman and like right, you could look for people, or like put out like a, I don't know, like a tweet and be like, hey, like if anybody wants to join this particular stream or whatever, you know, feel free to let us know. How do I set that up? Like that stuff, like I feel like y'all can do. Like, okay, like y'all have the ability to say, right? Because there are different people that view like your channel, stuff like that. You can do that. You can put that out there. You can say, hey, I'd like to have maybe, I don't know, 4 women, let's say, on the stream or something. And I'm just saying this from a general sense, right? Obviously, like women are not like the same across the board or anything like that. But it's imperative that you have them right on, that you have them on stream, and that you do that consistently, right? Like you have that. You don't necessarily have to have the same 4 women on the stream every time. Like you can have different women on the stream, right? Because I know that like women want to be heard. Women want to speak on topics that are crucial to how they're viewed and how they're treated. That's like a basic thing, right? So it's like if you're talking about sexuality, like, yo, I think it's important to make sure that you have different like people with different with like that identify like in terms of like different sexualities and stuff like that. That's important. You gotta have that. You know? That's why like for me, like what happened is like I had to like, right, like and I see you, like I see you guys, I see like the comments and stuff like that. You know, and I think like for me, like I had to distance myself, because it wasn't even right. Like I wasn't gonna say like, oh, this is trash. Like this is a trash stream. This is a trash stream. It's like I have to say like I don't feel good like being a part of certain like conversations, because I know in the most part like where certain conversations are gonna go when certain things are being discussed. Right. Right. There was one point Matt B was talking about, you know, what was it? You know, can women and like guys and friends? Matt B was like, yo, this is no problem. This is easy. This is easy work. Like, right. But like, and I think Naya as well. Like I can't remember. I think the stream was like the elitist stream or whatever. The One Piece elitist stream, I think, was that one. And it was like, yo, this is no problem, right? But then there were so many people who were like, and it's like you have to have women to be a part of that discussion. That like that discussion is not going to go to a particular place like unless you have women, right? Like you know what I mean? Like there. Right, of all like walks of life and all that stuff. Like you got like that has to be there. If it's not there, then it's just gonna be all these guys, right? All like most guys, like right, these cishet guys, like talking about and that's it. And it's like it's gonna be a lot harder to like to empathize. You know what I mean? Like it's like your opinions are out there, and that's cool. Like in a sense that like, okay, you're talking about these things and like you're having this discussion, and that's like an initial step, and that's an important step. But it's like you have to be able to like progress. You got to progress. Like it can't like people should not expect the same particular things. And again, that's the same thing for me. Like I have to say like, okay, like how do I have certain people? How do I have certain discussions? How do I see what other people are seeing. But but I also have to make sure, like, how do I like protect myself? How do I make sure that, like, you know, I don't let some troll in and then they just start talking about, oh, well, you know, it's just like, it's horrible to be bi or pan or gay, lesbian, you know, whatever, like, asexual, like, nah, like, you know what I mean? It's like, how do I make sure that I'm doing the things in a way that I need to? I don't know. I just feel like, you know, certain times, like, conversations will, you know, right? When you watch it and stuff, you know that those conversations are going to go a particular way because you have a general idea of how those people view particular things. I think when these happen is like you have to be like, all right, how do I get, like, right? Hangouts has like a limit of, like, I think 10 people, right? And that's including the person that's hosting the stream, that's hosting the Hangouts call. So you have to be like, all right, it doesn't necessarily have to be equal, but at the very least, you should have enough people to where, like, let's say, like I feel like if you have like you have the limit of 10 people, right, including the content creator, then that leaves you with 9 spots. So you have to make sure it's like, okay, like, if I'm gonna have a conversation about sexuality, I should probably see if I can make sure that I have like a few guys here and a few women here, and maybe like a few, let's say if you have like friends who identify as non-binary, right, gender queer, like, you know, all that stuff, like, you should have people on there, right? If you can, if that's within your power, right? If that's within your influence, and you should attempt to do that. And that's something I think, like, you should just do. You should just do. There shouldn't be a question of, oh, well, I don't know. Like, what don't you know, right? Like, what don't you know? What's the issue, you know? And I'm gonna leave it there because, like, I think that's, like, at the very least, that's something that's something that you should be able to do. Like, you should be able to just do that, the bare minimum. Just make sure that people are able to get onto your streams and your discussions. They should feel like they can ask, or you should feel like you can ask them. I think that's very possible. You know, I think it's something that you should be able to do. I don't know. You know, I think that, like, that's necessary. That is, like, at least, like, the first necessary thing. Like, you got to be like, yo, I gotta have more women on my stream. I gotta have more, you know, non-binary folks on my stream. I gotta have more, you know, and when I say woman, that includes trans women. Like, it's like you gotta have people on your stream. They got to be able to, like, talk about their experiences, and they have to be able to input, right? Because if they can't input, then, like, your conversation is not, like, null and void. I'm not gonna say that, but I think, like, it's very weighed down, right? It's like it can't go to where it needs to go, right? It's hindered, right? And, like, you can't have that with your discussions. That's why, like, again, I always have to think about my own. I'm like, okay, like, how do I progress this more? How do I do more? You know, and I think, like, more and more sort of, I will say this, more and more people are noticing, like, yo, there are certain things that are going on, and, like, you know, people will talk about certain topics, but again, you got to be informed, right? Like, at the very least, you got to read certain things, right? It's like, how do you have a conversation about, how are you as a guy, right, have conversations about feminism if you're not informed on feminist thought, on the criticism that's out there, on the work that's been done? You know, and no one's saying go read all of it and come back. No one's saying that, right? Because that's like a lifelong pursuit, right? To just continuously be informed on that stuff. You know what I mean? There are prominent, like, feminist scholars out there who just keep reading, right? Because they know that stuff doesn't stop. Like, you always want to be informed, right? And that's with other things too, right? And, like, it's like, how is it as, like, a cishet dude? How do you have a conversation? And even me, right? Like, I'm like, how could I have conversations about feminism if I'm not informed on feminist thought? I don't know what that discourse looks like, right? Immediately, what happens is people are like, "Oh, you're creditless. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you haven't read any of that stuff, right?" Like, how do you have a conversation about types of feminisms, right? How do you have a conversation about feminisms as opposed to just, like, feminism as a monolith, right? If you haven't read Sarah Med's Living a Feminist Life and her discourse on for the feminist killjoy, right? Or Unhappy Queers, or on academia, or on you know what I mean? Or like Angela Davis's Woman, Race, Class, and her discussion on her like critique of like white feminists, right, and white suffragists, right, and all that stuff. Like, how do you, like, if you don't know about that, and critique on like how conversations about rape and certain types of, right, and sexual assault and that stuff, like how those are discussed, right? Like, how do you have conversations on those things if you're not even aware of like the base level discourse? That's important, right? It's important. And again, it's like, you can, like, no one's saying you can't have opinions, but it's like, you got to make sure your opinions are dutifully informed. You got to make sure you at the very least, you put in some modicum of effort to inform yourself before you start being like, oh, well, feminism is garbage. This is trash. Blah, blah, blah. You got to read that stuff, right? Of course, there are people who are like, yo, feminism trash, and they've read some of that stuff. They've read some of the discourse, and like they still come out of it and they're like, feminism is trash. And people like argue with those people, right? But again, it's like, you got to read some of that stuff, and like, I think the thing is, for me, is I could, like, say, hey, go read this stuff, but it's like, women do that all the time. Like, you could literally search on Twitter, or you could look online, and like, they will just be like entry after entry after entry, right? Google entry after Google entry of women who are just like, yo, you should read these texts, you should read these essays if you can get access to them, or whatever, or you should read these articles, you should read these editorials, you should watch these videos, you should, like, you know what I mean? Like, read these books. Like, there's so much of that. So at the very least, you got to start somewhere, right? And I will say this, I think that when it comes to that sort of stuff, some of it is written in a way that is very like alienating, right? I truly believe that. It's like, yo, you got to make sure, like, at the very least, like, if you're writing this stuff, people got to be able to read it and be like, oh, okay, I can actually like parse through it and figure this stuff out on my own and stuff like that. But even if you can't figure that stuff out on your own, you should be seeking people out who can help with that. You know what I mean? Take a class if you need to. Sit in, audit one. I don't know. But there's stuff that like you can do. And you have to do that. It's important. You know what I mean? I don't come in this channel talking about, oh well, I'm not gonna have a discussion about women without reading stuff. I'm not gonna have a discussion about sexuality without reading stuff, gender without reading stuff. Like, I have to, on race. I gotta, and I'm still reading. I keep reading because I gotta be informed. I have to. That's important. And I have to, like, I don't have any plans to stop reading. I gotta keep reading. Like, I gotta. So it's like, for me, it's like, just do that. Like, if you want to have certain conversations, have them. But when you continue to have those conversations, there has to be, like, you have to show that you are trying to learn about the things that you're talking about. You have to show that you are trying to be informed about that stuff and forming opinions about those topics based on what you've looked at. Like to me, that's vital. It's vital. It's vital. And I also think that's like, you have to think about how your platforms and how your spaces can make others uncomfortable. That's really important. You have to be like, right? Because like, there might be women who, non-binary folk, right, genderqueer folk, like all that stuff, like, who might be like, you know what? I don't think I'd feel comfortable in that space because people are throwing, F-bombs and, and other slurs and stuff like that around. Like, it's like, yo, you got to think about that. You got to be like, and you have to adjust because you owe it, right? Like you owe it to just people. You owe it to yourself, like to say like right to like tell people like I'm on this platform. I want progress to happen. I want people to be able to speak about certain things and to get somewhere. Otherwise, you're just like talking about things and not and not like growing and not, you know what I mean? It's like it's important, you know. And I think you know, yeah, you know. I'll say this again at the same time. I got to do that same. I have to do that same work. I constantly have to do that same work, right? I have to talk. I have to have conversations with women. Have that discourse. Make sure that they feel comfortable, that they feel like they can talk about certain things. Without me like, you know what I mean? I gotta read. I gotta work through it. I gotta make notes. I gotta, you know what I mean? I gotta watch. I gotta listen. I have to do all that stuff, and I have to continuously do all that stuff. I will say this. I think like, I'm not saying do that 24/7 because you gotta sleep, right? But I'm saying that like you have to really make the time. You gotta set up the space, set up the time to read, write, listen, analyze, think, do all that stuff. I think if you're a content creator, it's even more important that you do that. Sorry, it just is. You have to. You have to. And I'll also say, I don't expect the change to happen in a day. I don't, because I think that's kind of like a foolish thing. But I will say, like, you can hope for that. I think people have every right to. I think marginalized folks have every right to hope for that change to happen quickly, because that's what we would love for that to happen, like in an hour. Yo, someone can snap and be like, yo, come on, we need some of that. We need some of that equality over here when it comes to certain things, like true like equality. We need some of that stuff over here. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, I'm snapping. I want that to happen as quickly as possible, right? But that's hope, right? I don't expect that. I don't think like, oh, someone's gonna snap and that's what's gonna happen. I don't expect that. But I would demand clear progression, clear effort. That's important, right? If you're not putting in no effort, but you're still gonna say the same, you're still gonna have the same opinions about, oh well, women, women need to, cover up in certain ways, or, what's another one? The LGBTQ, people who are, people who are gay are just like inherently like evil, or need or should be like ostracized in certain ways. It's like, go read, go write, go listen, go do all that stuff, watch, whatever. You have to do that stuff. I'm just asking you to do that stuff. I don't think that's like, I wouldn't say it's not I think like, if you have Google, like if you have access to like a library, if you have access to certain things, like you can look that stuff up. A lot of it is, again, it's effort. A lot of it comes down to effort. Can you do that stuff? Can you put in that effort? Can you have discussions where you're like, And I think some people have. I've noticed that, like that. And again, I'm not saying I haven't noticed any change. I think I've noticed that stuff, right? I've seen certain channels, and I'm like, yo, some people, man, it's very clear. They're like, like I can see that, right? But I think like there are certain things where it's like, yo, son, like there were things that are like women are gonna look at, non-binary folks, genderqueer folks, like people within the LGBTQ community, or identify on LGBTQIA, like right, like plus, like they're gonna look at that stuff and they're gonna be like, nah, I can't, because like you got to show a certain level of like empathy. That's a certain level of empathy, right? If someone's in a stream and like you can't be like, and if someone's in a stream and and they're gay, you can't be throwing F-bombs around. That's not it, right? Because it shows like that's like a complete lack of empathy, right? You have to just do that stuff. So again, I'm just saying like there are things that you have to be able to do. There's effort that you have to be able to show and put forth. I have to do the same thing, right? I'm not absolved from this stuff. I'm not absolved from effort. I gotta put in effort, right? I have to adjust. I have to make sure that like I can have certain conversations, whether those conversations are private or on stream, because I think both are really vital, right? And I've had some pretty vital conversations off privately with people, and like that's really helped. And it's one of the reasons why I'm where I am right now in terms of saying like I gotta adjust my approach. You know, I think that's really important. And you know, I'm gonna try as hard as I can to make sure that like I adjust my stuff, like that I make sure that like when I have certain conversations, whether privately or on stream, that they reflect that effort. They have to reflect that effort. Because if I'm doing the same thing and I put in no effort to learn and I put in no effort to like, you know, progress, you know, and to make this community less like toxic, and what am I doing? Why am I here? You know, I don't know. And I've talked with people. You know, I've talked with people. You know, we're saying the same things. We're just like, yo, what can we do? What do we do? You know, how are we gonna shift our how are we gonna shift gears? What are we gonna do to do certain things to affect change and stuff like that? So, you know, yeah. Yeah, and I see everybody in the chat, you know, certain questions, stuff like that. I think like, you know, again, like there are things that I always feel like I have to do. There are things like I can't comment on certain things. It's like I like I always have to make sure like I make decisions, for me, like for my mental health, like because I am extremely prone to just like these really intense, like depressive bouts. Like there might be moments where like I might not go outside for a few days. You know, I might be like, it's gonna be really hard for me to get out of bed, and you know, and sometimes I don't even notice it happening. You know, it'll just, you know, sometimes it'll be like very like palpable, and I'll notice it, but other times it's like very subtle, and days will go by and I'll just be like, yo, what is like, and I'll notice it days later. You know, maybe my fiance has to say something. You know, so it's like I have to make sure that there is like that I you know, again, distance myself from things that are going to trigger that like, and it's like that's real. That's real. You have to do that. You know, so I have to do that. You know what I mean? I think right now, like I'm working on like making sure that I can still be productive. You know what I mean? When that stuff hits, and like you have to be aware. You know, you have to work on that. You can't just be like, all right, this is it, and I'm not gonna do, like, you know. But again, it's very hard. It's very hard to like, you know, it takes like an extreme amount of effort sometimes. But I think, you know, I have consistently worked on it, and I think that's helped. You know, so I see it more quickly. You know, I can feel it more quickly, and I can, you know, act accordingly. You know, but sometimes it's stuff that happens in this community. Sometimes it's stuff that happens in like my everyday life. You know, and right, like it's stuff. It's like there are things. You know, and I think like this is not to say like, oh, you know, walk on eggshells. It's like just, you know, just be more empathetic. You know, be aware of what work you should be doing. You know, if you can do that, great. But the effort thing is really important for me. The effort thing is really important for me. I think that's kind of where I have to start. You know, it's like I gotta start. Effort, 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 effort. Put in the effort. Do that work. I think if you do that, great. You know, great. But you know, there were things I wanted to have like opinions on, and I'm just like, I've done that on Twitter, so I don't need to like really speak on certain things. At this point, I just think like, you know, it wouldn't be productive like for me to like, you know, have like certain conversations about particular things now. It wouldn't be productive, you know. So I'm not gonna do that. Um, you know, in terms of like reactions and stuff, like that'll be back. Like that'll be back. I just have to make sure that like, you know, I've got that everything is on, you know, um, and that I'm, you know, making sure that like I am focused on the things that I need to be focused on. So that when I'm reacting, that like I can like put my energies into that when I'm doing that, and I'm not thinking about this other thing over my shoulder. So those will be back sooner rather than later, I want to say. I just got to make sure I like set aside time. You know, I got to stream on Saturday. That's really important. So most likely I'll end up reacting maybe early Sunday or something like that. I don't know, but I'll see. I'll see. You know, there are manga. There's like, I mean, it's not that I haven't been reading anything. I've been reading a lot, but you know, reacting is a different thing. It's like it takes a lot more energy to react and while reading something than does it just kind of like sit there and like read. So I was gonna make sure that like my energy is there where it needs to be. Otherwise, it's gonna be like I'm gonna react and I'm just gonna be kind of like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay. You know, that's all I wanted to say, I guess. I'm gonna keep trying to like talk to certain people. I think, again, just like I have to put in the work and I have to like adjust and I have to make sure that I'm hearing people and what they're saying, right? Like I've already had a few people that are like, yo, you know, okay, I'm interested in having like, you know, hangouts call, chat with you, da da da. And I'm gonna get back to those people and I'm gonna say, hey, we'll set it up like maybe this day, this time, and we'll do it. And that's gonna be that, you know. And I'm looking forward to that, you know. And I think other like YouTubers do that stuff like on their own. I think they do that. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not saying they have to do that. I'm saying like for me, like that's something that I had to adjust. I had to make sure that I do that stuff. I think like, you know, with others, like it's like gotta be more inclusive. Gotta be more inclusive. Because it's very easy to just like to feel like, oh well, you know, we fine. We're here. Look, we're talking about this topic. Haha. It's like this is what you want, right? It's like no. There's more involved. Like there's a lot more that you need to do. You know. So it's just like, you know, yeah. Yo, what's good? And shouts out to everybody in the stream. Kenneth York, Family Guy, Sausage Lord, The Heart, you know what I mean? Richard, Richard the God, Mirchan, Goldie Evas, Beyond Solace. Shouts out to all y'all in the chat. And you know, it's just like I just gotta keep moving. I gotta keep moving. I gotta keep doing this stuff. It's important. And I'm like, I'm not gonna stop. That doesn't mean right. I'm not saying I'm gonna stop, but I'm like, I have to like you gotta reevaluate. You know, there always have to be times where you're like, is what I'm doing effective in the way that it needs to be? And if it's not, you gotta adjust your approach. You gotta adjust your approach. You know, you do. Because if you don't, then like, what are you doing? You know, how are you helping anybody? You know, these are questions I ask myself all the time. I'm like, is this even like helpful? Is that even helpful? What am I doing? You know? So, yeah. I don't know. And that's pretty much it. I think that's what I wanted to say. Okay. You know, and it helped. And I think that helped. That helped. Got things off my chest. said what I wanted to say and certain things. And hopefully we move forward, keep growing, be more inclusive, be more informed, right? Effort, right? When again, like those are two, like that's the biggest thing, right? Like being more inclusive when it comes to certain things, right? And that's it's a part of effort, right? Like, and so the big thing is effort, right? I think that's the thing for me. It's like effort. Effort is really important, so try to be more informed, read stuff, some people, they come into my, they DM me, they're like, yo, BMC, like, do you have any suggesting things that I should like look at, people that I should talk to, da da da. And I'm like, yo, okay, go over here, go over there, like check that. And I do that, and it's cool, and I try to do that. I think that's something I'm trying to do more of. Even though I do that already, but it's like, and yeah, try to look out for those things. But also, people, like, you can always come to me and say, hey, what do you think? What are some things that you think I should read? What do you think are some things that I should check out? And I'll either like, say, hey, read this thing, and right, and also like, so not either, but like I'll suggest things, and I'll say like, yo, maybe you could like check out this person's list or that person's annotated bibliography or whatever, and I'll point you. I saw the movie. I saw the Alita movie. I shouldn't have, because like I don't think I read enough. I read a decent amount, but like I read enough, but not really. Like I didn't expect the movie to do something that it did, and it kind of spoiled me on something, and I'm a little annoyed about it. But it's like whatever at this point. I didn't particularly like it, but I'm not gonna tell, like the only person that I would tell not to see it is like Naya, because I know Naya, and Michael, because I know Michael, right? And they're like, no, I'm not going to go see it. So I'm like, yeah, okay, don't see it. But if anybody else, if you want to go see the movie, like go see the movie. I'm not gonna tell you not to see the movie. I think you should go see it, see how you like it. If you like it, if you think it's cool, okay. To me, I didn't like it, but I like some things. I like some things about it. So maybe I felt like it was a little below average. That's how I felt about it. But I wouldn't say it's totally like awful. So yeah, but I'll say I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good. Yeah, that's how I feel about it. Okay. So I think I'm gonna end it now because I got some stuff I need to do. Oh man. And I don't know, maybe I'll react to like something later on. I don't know, we'll see. But thank y'all for coming through. Thank y'all for coming through. It's important that I keep doing this, and I'm gonna keep trying to talk to certain people. I'm gonna keep trying to talk to certain people because like I gotta, and I think those people can really affect change in a certain way. I think they can do it, but yeah, I think like and like beyond solace, I think I see where people is going with it, where they're like, yo, like if I had to compare Alita to other manga adaptations, yeah, it's definitely like the best one I've seen. I think if I had to compare, like it's definitely the best one I've seen. But in terms of like live action, like where, you know what I mean? But yeah. Yeah. But like, yeah. The manga is like, it's a manga. It's fantastic. But but yeah, I think when compared to other manga live action adaptations, this one is pretty good, right? When you compare it to that. And again, there were some parts that I really enjoyed that I thought were pretty cool and dope. So yeah. Okay. I gotta go. But again, feel free to like, feel free to DM me. Feel free to like, ask me like, hey, shoot me a tweet, leave a comment, ask me for things that you should read, check out, and I'm not saying like read it and then just be like, and then taking everything and go with every single thing. I'm like, you gotta read it. Like you gotta come up with thoughts about what's being said, all that stuff, right? Like that's what you do. That's what you do. Again, that's also paired with effort. All right, so thank you for coming through to this stream. I just wanted to get this stuff off my chest because I was just like, I gotta focus, and it's harder for me to focus when I don't talk about certain things. And I didn't want it to just be like a rant stream like talking about, oh well, about this thing or that thing or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to like change with that because I think that can lead to a kind of like sensationalized like commentary on stuff, and I don't want to do that. Like this channel is not about like clout or anything like that. I'm just like, oh, this is my channel, like for me to express certain things, to connect with certain people, to connect with people, and that's just what I want to do. That's just what I want to do. So thank y'all for coming through. All right. I gotta go. I got stuff I gotta get done. I'm a Black Manga Critic, y'all, and like I said, hit me, via DMs if you're allowed to, because like my DMs aren't like open in the same way that some others are, because like there are too many trolls and too many like people that like just like throw out like disgusting like comments towards me, in general. And if I left my DMs open, like I'd see like garbage all the time, and I can't deal with that. I can't like mentally, I can't. I like no, like no. Self-care is vital. All right. So thank y'all for coming through on a Black Manga Critic. And I'm out, ya.